And welcome back to Journey of a Fearless Female. I'm your host, Paola Rosser, and this week my guest is Molly Rose Speed. She is an expert in creating what everybody wants more of: time, freedom, love. Through her methods of intelligent systems, automation, and outsourcing, you'll experience another 10 to 15 hours per week of freedom and flexibility. Molly Rose is the creator of Virtual Assistant Academy and the founder of Virtual Assistant Management, which provides trusted virtual assistant solutions and flawless tech execution for busy entrepreneurs. Everybody, please welcome Molly Rose. Hi, do you go by Molly Rose or Molly?
Molly Rose, thanks for asking.
I love that. Oh, so tell us about your fearless female journey.
Yeah, wow. I love this topic and this question and what you're doing. So I did what every American girl probably usually does: go to high school, get good grades, go to college, do the same, take your first corporate offer and get your 401k and keep going.
Yeah.
But along the way, I married military, and my life took kind of a turn because he deployed all the time. And I was a travel bug. I wanted to travel the world. Who doesn't? But I actually wanted to execute on that so badly that I wanted to quit my job. So I was in corporate finance at the time, had a great job in healthcare, but I was so unhappy. The girl that was crying her eyes out on the way and on the way home, just to sit there and literally have no responsibility but earn a paycheck.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it sucks.
They sell you this dream about like going to corporate, and that corporate's going to take care of you for the rest of your life. And you go there and you're just like, why does this feel like my soul is being sucked out of my body?
Yeah, that's what I call it. Exactly. My soul sucking cubicle job,
Yeah. I used to call myself a monkey trapped in a cage.
Yeah, I think a lot of people
until noon for lunch and 5 o'clock when I was ready to go home. But I have to come back to the cage the next day.
And then imagine the people that don't do anything about it, and that's how we spend most of our life doing that. So I quit cold turkey, had no idea what I was going to do. Yeah. And my husband, we were engaged at the time. He was deployed. So he came home to marry someone that was unemployed. And
so you didn't even tell him you were going to quit. You just were like,
I'm sure I did. Yeah. But he wasn't here to tell me, he's like, just have a plan. Okay, I'll find a plan.
It's funny that you say that, because I was just watching a TikTok and this guy was talking about how, he just quit without like having a plan and no medical insurance. And it reminded me of the same thing, because I had multiple corporate jobs and I kept trying to be assimilated, I guess. I kept trying to fit into the box. And so I thought, maybe it's just this job, maybe it's just this cubicle. Maybe I'll feel better in the other cubicle, right? So I tried multiple jobs, but every cubicle I just still felt trapped and felt like suffocated. And one of the jobs that I had, I remember the boss told me, I was a marketing person and I was working on design programs, and he messed up my InDesign program because I was off for a day and he wanted to fix his own marketing brochure, but he messed it up. And he called me in his office because I told him, I was like, you made all these mistakes. There's over 400 mistakes. It's going to take me weeks to fix. And he was like, in my office now. And I was like, okay. So all these people in the cubicle world were like turning their heads, like, what's going to happen? I walked into his office and he's like, I'm up here. And if people are watching the hand up here, and he's like, and you're down here, and you just follow what I tell you. And I just looked at him and I said, excuse me, Mr. Bob Caudle. Last time I checked, I bleed red blood. You bleed red blood. We both come from the same source. And I'm not going to put up with this shit. I quit. And he's like, you can't quit. You just started, blah, blah, blah. I was like, watch me. And that's the thing, that a lot of people have this fear of like, oh no, I have to stay here. Like they're your master. All of a sudden you became the elephant with the rope tied to your ankle, and you feel like you can't leave, when in reality you have the most power because you're the elephant in the room with the most power. And I just remember leaving, and I left. And I mean, I just resonate with you so much, because that is exactly what so many people are doing, and probably listening to this podcast right now in their cubicle thinking, can I really leave without a plan? Like, you didn't have a plan. I didn't have a plan. Eventually I got another job and I survived. I'm here. I'm alive. Like you're here, you're alive. You can attest to it. So, okay, so tell me what happened after
To-
you left.
I'm so happy you shared that story because it's like if you would have kept going, then you just make it all okay for him to treat you that way, and we all do that over and over. So just kudos, yeah. And look at where you are.
I know.
Um, so when I quit cold turkey, just to add to your point, my mom, who's a wonderful woman, she said, okay, you're always going to have a roof over your head and you're always going to be fed because I'm not going to not let that happen to you. So what do you have to
Aw,
lose, right? Like, and I was an adult. I was 24 at the time, not that old, but so I just trusted. It was probably the biggest leap of faith I've taken, which people go through a lot more than that. But for me, it was a huge deal. And so got married. My husband's like, all right, you got 4 to 6 months, figure this out. I'm like, okay, that's fair. Well, within a few months, I was answering an ad that a friend I had met at a conference about 6 months prior to that, where I learned the word entrepreneur because I grew up in Iowa where that isn't a thing. Well, it
yeah.
is now, it is now. Um, and he needed a social media marketing manager to do a crowdfunding campaign for a student loan documentary that we were trying to raise $80,000 for. And it said, make a video and tell us why. So I spent the whole day doing it and they hired me and it was $2,000 a month, which was
Woo.
great. And it was a launching pad for what I'm doing now. I don't do social media, but I just figured it out. I had no idea how to do social media marketing. I knew social media. So just by giving it a go, we totally raised our $80,000. The documentary made
Nice.
it on CNBC.
Wow.
Yeah, and we did so well that they were able to continue paying me, and I started working for one of the founders of it, and I worked with him for 8 years. So
Really?
yeah, part time, but yeah, and it just snowballed. Like I didn't know what a virtual assistant was at the time. I started by checking his emails and collecting all of his outstanding invoices, like 90 days old. Um, and it turned into creating courses and doing websites and social media and all sorts of stuff. So
That's amazing.
yeah, just
Yeah, I think I love a part of your story where you're like, I just figured it out.
yeah.
I think a big part of us as humans, we get so fed this fear that once we learn that one trick, we become that one trick pony. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
so, for example, when I graduated from college, I went into actually it's funny because I went to school to be a newscaster. I wanted to be on radio, television, do
Cool.
broadcasting. I wanted to have my own radio show. And which is funny because now I have my own podcast show. But that's what I wanted to do. But when I graduated and I couldn't find the right job, I fell into real estate because I remember I was just crying and I needed a paycheck and radio didn't pay at the time. I was just interning. And so I was crying in a parking lot and I looked up and it was like a recruiter and they're like, come in, take some typing tests. We'll get you a job. And I was like, okay, they got me a job in real estate. I was like a secretary for a real estate development company. And then I got pigeonholed in real estate. So I became the one trick
Mm.
pony. So my resume was just all I did was work for real estate companies. And so I just kind of kept following the path, even though in my soul and in my gut, I was like, this isn't what I want to do. This isn't where I feel like I belong, but I'm playing your trick. I'm doing the one trick pony and really trying to, but the more that like same thing. I met my husband who was an entrepreneur, and that was like a foreign word to me too. Even though my dad was an entrepreneur, I just was like, I'm not going to be an entrepreneur. I need stability. I need a paycheck. I need to make sure that I have 401k, I have medical insurance. And so a lot of us get brainwashed into that idea that that's what we need to do. We need to stay with the herd because if we separate and go outside of the village, we might get hurt. We might get slaughtered. And so we're so scared to leave and we take the abuse, we take the whippings, we take the, no, you can't have your vacation time. What are you talking about? You
That's
put it in, but so and so also put it in, or you can't take the day off because your daughter is sick and needs, to be there for you to comfort her, or you can't, all these different no's and just stay in line, get the whip behind your back, right? And you're just stuck there in corporate America and you think there's no way I can make it out on my own. And now I am an entrepreneur and I do have virtual assistants. And I think that people don't understand that there are people out there that are willing to take up the tasks that you don't want to do. Like you said earlier, he had 90-day invoices that he probably
Yeah.
didn't look at for a while. And most people who are entrepreneurs are creatives.
Yep.
They're not the check the boxes type of people. They're not the type A people that, check their emails and make sure they follow up. They're creatives. They're, thinking outside of the box, and they need people like you said, a virtual assistant who is going to check the boxes. But I love that you said, no matter what, I figured it out. You didn't know anything about social media,
No.
had no clue. You just threw yourself out there. So
Yeah. Like the
what would
real
be,
imposter syndrome.
yeah, like what was your first couple of weeks like? What did you feel?
uh Nervous because I didn't want to let them down, but also it was so exciting because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting paid without a corporate job. It's just me. Like it was so validating. Like it was just like the first step of there's so many ways to make money and I'm doing it, that kind of feeling like I'm actually doing it. And the first weeks were just filled with education. I just learned. I watched YouTube videos. I watched documentaries. I watched all this stuff to immerse myself because I didn't want to fail. And
Mm-hmm.
it was fun. Like I made it really fun. Had spreadsheets and I researched social media schedulers and graphics. And, we didn't have things like we do today too, like Canva and all these really fancy schedulers, so
Yeah.
figuring all that out. So it was exciting.
That's incredible. I love that you just said, I just figured it out and I watched YouTube videos. And that's a thing that, like you said, even back then, you didn't have that many resources, but it's a different time now. I
Mm-hmm.
think that people don't understand just how easy it is to figure it out.
Totally.
There's someone out there has created a YouTube video that
Oh yeah.
lives on the online web
For
that has
free.
for free, that has put it out there because knowledge is key and it's power. And so someone out there has the key to unlock your future. So just type it in YouTube. How do you schedule,
Yeah.
social media stuff? Or how do you create, an Instagram post? Like, no matter what it is that you're trying to learn, you can learn it. And what's funny about your story is that I did the same thing when I was unemployed for a year and a half. And I finally got this job and I was supposed to be a marketing person for this real estate broker. And he's like, do you know InDesign, Photoshop, Illustrator? And I was like, yes, I
Yeah.
do. Even though I didn't, I had no freaking clue what these programs were. But I would stay past 5 o'clock till 7, 8 p.m. sometimes. I had two different screens. I had one screen with a YouTube video playing, and I had the other screen with InDesign, Photoshop, and Illustrator open. And I was just following the steps one by one. I figured it out.
And now you know.
I was the best marketer he ever had.
Hell
He still
yeah.
to this day still talks about how great I was. But it's like you figure it
Figure it
out.
out. That is the one anyone that's looking for a job or wants to just be the best they can be. If you have that one skill set, I don't know, but I'm going to figure it out. And you actually do. You are golden. I need 8,000 of you. Call me.
Right?
you know?
No, that's a huge skill set to have, because I've gone through so many virtual assistants. I can't even tell you how many virtual assistants. And I don't want to be the type of person that says, oh, it's a millennial or it's the Generation X. I think it's just the person that just doesn't see outside of the box. You know what I mean? Because there's a solution for everything. And so when I would hire assistants and I would be like, okay, I need you to figure out how to send out Shopify gifts or whatever. And, they would tell me, oh, no, I can't do it. What?
Google it.
Google it. Like, I'm telling you, not because I can't do it, because I would, if I didn't have a virtual assistant, I would sit in the front of the computer and figure it out. I don't have time for that. That's why reason why I hired you. So you could be my Googler. You could be my virtual assistant and YouTube it and research it and figure it out.
Absolutely. Yep.
So no matter what your job you're applying for, right, Molly, you can say, if I don't know it, and this is what I used to say in interviews, if I don't know it, I'll figure it out. Like, I will research it and I will find you the answer. And if I don't know the answer, I'll find the person who has the answer. Because that's how life works.
Exactly. And you'll learn along the way. Yeah, this is the number one thing I teach my students that I train. It's just figure that out and you'll be golden. So
how do you get students? So you have an academy, so you teach people how to become their own virtual assistants. It's not like you have like a fleet of virtual assistants that
I
you're
have
the
both.
company and you send them out.
Yeah, I have both. So along the way, people kept asking me, how do I do what you do? Because I was literally working in Paris, from eight
Ooh.
noon to four or noon to until noon every day, and then I just go out and sightsee. And I was making decent money, totally working virtually, or take 2 weeks off at Christmas, like all the beautiful things of running your own business if you set it up right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I created I did what everyone says to do, right? If you're repeating yourself over and over, record it. Well, I wanted to record it and make some money. So I created a virtual assistant academy certification program now. So I've
Nice.
certified 135 VAs. I'm super excited about that and growing. And we have a placement agency as well. So once they get certified, they have the opportunity to apply for our management team. And we
Wow.
have a very high criteria of the figure it outers of the world. And then now we place them with amazing business owners and
Oh,
creators.
that's incredible. But let's talk about the journey. Like it hasn't always
Okay.
been perfect, right?
No.
So tell us about like
um,
the stuff that like really was blocking you, any emotions that you might have felt and what you did to like push through the self-doubt and the fear and the anxiety and because entrepreneurship is not easy. I'm in it. Some days you're like, yes, everything's working. It's amazing. Then some days you're bawling in a corner thinking, I need to go back to corporate.
yeah. And corporate for me is client work. I still do a lot of client work. And yeah, I think for me, the hardest thing over the years has been, well, two things. One, it's like the dangling carrot that's in front of you that you just keep taking, people asking you to do this project or you're going to make this amount of money if you do this website, instead of staying true to myself and knowing without a doubt that I can build this amazing company to support virtual assistants and train people, because there's not a lot out there. There haven't been over the years. I think that's been really difficult for me. It's like just not believing in and taking that leap once again, like I did from corporate, to believe in
Mm-hmm.
myself. It's like I have to choose to do that every day because the opportunities are there, just like it would be for a regular job. So it's like that's taken me longer than I wanted it to.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Well,
I think the other thing is kind of a little of the imposter syndrome, like who am I to be the one teaching all of these people? Or what if I say the wrong thing? Or what if I teach them the wrong thing and it doesn't work? That's never happened. But I had all those thoughts like, oh, what if they fail? Or what if this isn't going to work? And it just blocks you. And I'll spend months just not acting because of
oh,
that. And,
yeah.
you know, how many more people could I have helped if I would have gotten over my shit? So
Right. It
nothing's
could have been like
perfect.
500 people, right?
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
it is, it's a huge undertaking. It's like, I feel like entrepreneurship helps you heal all the parts of you that needs healing because when you're doing corporate, you're just going along with the herd. I'll do exactly what you say, right? But now
Yeah.
it's like, okay, you're thrown out of the boat or outside of the village and you have to fend for yourself and you are stuck with your own thoughts. And so
Mm-hmm.
you're with your own thought, your voice, your negative voice that's constantly telling you you're not good enough. Who do you think you are? Like, this is never going to work. You're never going to make any money. You're stuck with that voice. And so you really have to battle with your own ego to
Totally.
push it aside and say, no, I'm actually doing something that's making a difference, not only in my life, but in the lives of others.
Yeah.
And the people that fight, like, I feel like entrepreneurs are in the arena and the people in corporate are in the what are they called? The
The
blood nose
stands.
seats, the
Oh
seats that are
yeah.
at the very top,
Yeah.
nosebleeds,
The
blood nose
nosebleeds.
seats.
I love it.
They have like all these like opinions, but unless you're in the battle, getting punched and socked and hit and then having some victories and then having being slayed on other days, you really don't understand.
No,
You
no.
really don't understand what it's like to have a business and to be an entrepreneur. Because a lot of the times you're by yourself. No one's giving you like a certificate and saying, oh my God, you made it. Here's your Christmas bonus. Or we want to give you an award for best attendance. Like
Right.
nobody gives a shit
Yeah, the validation has to all come from you,
from
and
you. You have to tell
yeah.
yourself to keep going. And I loved earlier that you said you had your mom say, I'll be here for you no matter what. I think we all need that one person that says, you can do it. So your mom was that for you, and now you are that for your virtual assistants. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so I love it because it's causing a ripple effect. And I'm sure your virtual assistants are bringing in more people and saying, look what I'm doing. You could be doing the same thing. So tell us a little bit about the Academy and how anyone who is listening that might be interested and their ears are perking up and thinking, maybe this could be something I
Yeah.
could do.
Yeah. I I truly believe I've created an amazing solution to solve all the problems that I had when I was starting. So not only do you learn the tech side, right, which you can YouTube all
Mhm.
all all the things, and I encourage people to do that because things always change. But I give you kind of the roadmap from the technical side of these are the core things you really need to know to be a powerhouse supporter
Mhm.
of creators and entrepreneurs online. So that's very important. And then there's also the whole business aspect. Like as an assistant, you're running your own, or as a VA, you're running your own business. You're doing your
Mhm.
marketing and your bookkeeping and handling your taxes and setting up your legal stuff and pitching yourself and onboarding new clients and communicating with new clients. And there's a level of professionalism that you can have doing that that will exceed 95% of virtual assistants in the marketplace and just
Yes.
allow you to kind of breathe and be like, wow, I am a professional. Because it's easy to kind of also fall back and be like, oh, I just have this little business where I support people. Because believe it or not, people see virtual assistants as kind of the bottom of the totem pole, kind of like your experience with that
Mhm.
Bob man. And I hate that because
Yeah.
they do a lot. I mean, they run businesses in a lot of cases. I actually hate
Yeah.
the term assistant. It's so much
Oh,
more than that.
oh, I know. It's so much more than that. I had one job too, where my boss, he gave everyone a Christmas bonus except for me.
Oh my
And I didn't
gosh.
even know that. This was my last job, that was the job that was like the nail in the coffin that I was like, I don't fucking belong here. Fuck you, fuck you. You're cool. Like it was, and I didn't even know it was a crazy story. So I was a property manager for this big real estate company. I
Okay.
managed 10 commercial buildings. Like these weren't little baby buildings. These were like high
Thousands,
rise.
millions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Millions.
And like I was good. I was damn good at my job. I'm very type A. I'm a creative, but I'm also a very type A person. I like to check boxes. That's a whole nother episode of why I'm so like type A control freak. But yeah, and so I was working for him and I was a really good property manager, and he just didn't. Oh, well, what happened is that I wasn't making that much money. I was trying to pay off my credit card debts. And so on the weekends, I was Ubering. I had a plan. I read the book, Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey, and I was
Yep.
determined to pay off my debts. And so I was working full time as a property manager. And on the weekends, I was doing photo booths for weddings. And I was also doing
Jeez.
Ubering. I was kicking ass and taking names because I was going to pay off my debt. Actually I did. And so what
Good.
happened is he called me into his office and he goes, I have a building that I'm thinking about buying and I want you to take it on. The only problem with this building is that it's open on the weekends. And so you're going to need to be available on the weekends to manage this building. And I was also getting commission from each building. So I was like, well, what's the commission on this building? And he's like, you'll get an extra $200. And I was like, yeah,
Mm-mm.
no. And he goes, what? And I was like, no, thank you. And he goes, you can't say no to me. And I'm like, yeah, I can. I don't want to take on this building. And he goes, why? What are you doing on the weekends? First of all, it ain't
Oh,
none of your damn business. Number two, I was
yeah.
like, I actually run two other businesses that make me way more money than $200. I mean, my photo booth alone, I rented out for $400 for 3 hours. Like,
Right.
if I have a photo booth or a wedding, I'm not going to say no to that to take care of a building that's only giving me $200 for the month when I'm making $400 on one freaking wedding. And so he was like, oh, well, and he was like so confused. And I was like, I'm sorry. And I walked out of the conference room. And then after that, I think I had a target on my back because then one day he walked in and he saw that I was talking to my neighbor, who's my best friend. I still love her to death. Ruby, shout out. And she was like, me and her were just talking about like regular stuff. And then she's like, he told me, he goes, Paola, move your desk. Pick up your stuff. You guys are talking too much. Move your desk to the corner. So I had to pick up my desk where I had this beautiful window and I could look outside. I had to pick up all my stuff and move to the corner where my view was a brick wall.
Oh my gosh.
I know. And so then Christmas time comes around, and it was this year where in between Christmas and New Year's Eve was 10 days. So he like calls everyone to the middle of the office and he's like, everybody, I've decided that everybody gets 10 days off the day after Christmas. You don't have to come back until New Year's, the second of the month or whatever. And then he goes, except for you, Paola, you have to come in every single day. And I mean, and it was like toxic because he pointed me out in front of 15 people in the office. And he goes, except for you. You have to come in every single day. Oh, I was holding back the tears because I wasn't going to let this asshole get under my skin. So I was like, why? And he goes, because you're the property manager and people are still going to be working and I can't have you not work. And I was like, well, why can't I work from home? If somebody calls, I'll go to the office and I'll do what I have to do. No, you have to be in the office and I have cameras. So I'll make sure you're coming in. What an asshole. Right. And so I was like, okay, fine, whatever. And so that, I came in throughout the 10 days, even though during the 10 days I had the flu at some point, I still came in so he could see me on the camera to make sure that I was there. And then like towards the second week of January that year, my boyfriend now my husband took me to go see like a Joel Osteen thing. I love Joel Osteen back then.
I love your stuff. Yeah.
And so we're going there and my friend who I used to sit with, Ruby, calls me and she goes, hey, I know you're off to go do something fun with your boyfriend and everything, but I have something to tell you that's been really eating at me. And I'm like, what? And she goes, you know how he said that we didn't get Christmas bonuses? He's all, actually, we all did. And when he called me into the office and said, here's your Christmas bonus, don't tell Paola. I know you're best friends with her, but she's not getting one.
Oh my gosh.
He gave everyone a Christmas bonus.
I would have
it was $1,300. Okay, Molly, $1,300. And I was just like, so she goes, you didn't get a Christmas bonus, huh? And I was like, no. And she was like, yeah, he told me not to tell anyone and not to tell you, but I just can't. You're my best friend. I love you to death. You need to know this. So that, like when we came home that night, like, I kid you not. I went to the garage. I grabbed some boxes because I was a property manager. So I had the keys to the building. I grabbed some boxes. I went to the office. I packed up all my stuff because this is how cheap he was. You had to buy your own printer paper. Like I had to buy my own printer paper to conduct his business.
Oh my God, I would have sued him.
Yeah. So I freaking went, I packed up my freaking printer paper. I packed up everything, all my desktop stuff, everything. I put it in a box. My husband, now he was with me. I took a picture of myself flipping off the camera in front of my thing. And then I put a Post-it note on his desk. I said, I took back my power and I left.
Good for you.
And I left and I can't even tell you to this day. I quit probably because my husband and I have been together 7 years now. I quit 7 or 6 years ago. To this day, I still get phone calls from some of the buildings that I used to manage because they never figured out how to like change the phone number on some of the alarm systems. I mean, that's how much he needed me because, and that's what people who are listening to this podcast, that's how important you are, regardless if your title says assistant or there's someone above you, they can't run their well-oiled machine without you.
Exactly.
And there are times where we forget our power, our skill set, our talent, our vibration. Because I always think like you are an energy and I know that I was this powerful energy in that business because even after I left, I can't even tell you how many people called me and were like, where are you going? I want to hire you. You should come work for us. I love you. I can't believe you. I don't want to work with this other person. I want to only work with you, because that's how much of an imprint you leave, especially if you are good at what you
Yes.
do.
Preach.
And
Yep.
so they will do whatever it takes to either bring you back, or they'll try to replace you, but they'll never find you. They'll never find you. So you might as well go and do something that brings your soul alive and makes you feel worthy and accepted and honored for your talents and your skill set and your time. Because we are only doing this life one time, right? You're not,
Yep.
you
I was
don't,
going to
there's no
say that.
do
Mm-mm.
over. It's like, stop being someone else's one trick pony. Oh, I'm so
This
glad
is
you heard
so
my story.
validating, even for me, as a support person. I still struggle with this. I support incredible entrepreneurs, and it's like, well, I'm just the person behind the scenes. I don't, it's so much more. I have to wake up every day and be like, what I do matters. It does. Like, for
Mm-hmm.
anyone that isn't feeling that, like,
Yeah. What
the
you do
supporters of the world.
matters. Exactly. And you can do anything if you truly believe in yourself. And if you need someone to believe in you, there's a reason why Molly Rose started her academy, because she believes in you.
Mm-hmm.
And she thinks, or not, she thinks, she knows that if you just follow her steps, you can create your own business and succeed and finally take the rope off of your ankle and be the elephant. I know that sounds like a weird thing, but elephants, right,
They're
are
wonderful.
powerful. But
Yeah,
when they have a rope under their ankle, they think that they lose their power. And I feel like a lot of us do that when we're stuck in corporate America in our cubicles, thinking, oh, I'm just an assistant. And they do everything to make you feel like that, to
I
really
know.
make you believe that. Like that Bob Cottle who was like, I'm up here, you're down here. I was like, no, 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 we're not. We're not.
No.
We're not. And there's so many toxic workplaces. And there's actually some really great workplaces. But if you're not working in that really great workplace where you love your job and you love and you feel honored, and there are some good employers. I know I'm not just going to shit on all corporate America, but there are some really
Yeah.
good employers. But if you are in a shitty situation and you're listening to this podcast, and there's a reason why this podcast came to you, there's a reason why Molly is on this episode, there's a reason why it's time for you to finally break free.
Absolutely. Well said. Thank all the feels right now.
All right. So tell us a little bit more about like how they can get in touch with you. Let's first talk about your nugget of wisdom, because I always ask everybody as we wrap up the episode, what is your nugget of wisdom for anyone who is listening right now?
Yes. So I'm just going to say that we all have a choice based on what we all talked about. Nothing in our life is going to change unless you choose to change it. So just let that marinate. I chose to leave my shitty corporate job. You chose to walk away several times and look at where life has brought you, and it's okay. Yeah, were there
Yeah.
some days that didn't feel so right, or some money potentially left on the table? Probably not. It's the long-term picture. But by saying no, you say so much yes to so much greater, right?
Yeah. You say
So
yes to yourself, right?
yes.
You say no to everyone else and you're saying yes to yourself. How can my audience find you, Molly? Molly
Molly
Rose.
Rose Speed on all social channels. MollyRoseSpeed.com is my website. And for anyone interested in checking out the Academy and taking control of your career, virtualassistantacademy.com is there. And you can reach out to me if you have any questions. I'm happy to help anyone in this situation.
Thank you for being on the episode.
Thanks so much.
Thank you again for listening to Journey of a Fearless Female. I'm your host, Paola Rosser. If you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual mentor, you can book a free discovery call with me at www.fearlessfemale.com. You can also follow me on Instagram at fearlessfemale_coach, subscribe to my YouTube channel at fearlessfemale, or find me on TikTok. I'm under at paola.rosser. And if you love this episode, make sure you hit subscribe, share it with your friends, and leave a review. I read every single review, and I truly appreciate the time you spend writing it.